And welcome to episode 4. That's right, 4 of questions, comments, and stuff.
Yeah, catchy title.
Yeah.
We're going to check out some Q&A stuff. Stay tuned.
First question is from Sassy Cat. Hello, Sassy Cat. And it's a multifaceted question.
Yeah.
Yes, so part 1, Mongolian or Korean barbecue?
Korean.
Korean, me too.
Correct.
Next one, Perth or Adelaide, and why?
I haven't been to either, but I'd probably pick to go to Perth first because it's near the Quokkas.
But Adelaide is Radelaide, isn't that what people call it?
Yeah, we call it that. But
So I've been to Adelaide. I drove through Adelaide. Do you want to hear the quick story?
No.
Does anyone want to hear the quick story? If you don't, just skip forward. You're going to hear it. So I was involved in this tour maybe 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The last sort of tour I did. And we were meant to fly from here, from the Sunshine Coast to Sydney, I think, and from Sydney to Adelaide, and then drive from Adelaide to a place called Port Lincoln, which is there's like a little peninsula, and it's right at the end of the peninsula, for a show. Now, this was about 9 or 10 years ago, and there was a big volcano, I think it was in Peru, that erupted.
oh,
And all the smoke came across the Pacific, all the way across the Pacific, and on the entire east coast of Australia, all the airports were closed.
I remember that.
And that was the day we were meant to fly to Sydney. So Sydney airport closed, so we couldn't fly to Sydney. So they said to us, the tour manager people, who were already in Adelaide, because part of that tour, they were doing the Adelaide Fringe Festival, which was like the week prior. This is when I was the opening act for Leo Sayer. So Leo and a bunch of his band were in Adelaide already because they did the Fringe Festival. And me, I was part of the supporting act. We were the supporting act. We were coming, and some of the other guys from the band were coming later. And so we were meant to fly to Sydney and then Adelaide and then drive there. But so Sydney airport was closed, but Melbourne was still open. So they diverted our flight to Melbourne, and then we were meant to fly from Melbourne to Adelaide. But by the time we landed, we were one of the very last planes landing. After us, everything was shut down. Chaos at the airport. So we met 2 of the other crew guys there, hired a car, and drove from Melbourne to Port Lincoln. Now, go to Google Maps and go to Melbourne Airport, and then find one of them things where it shows you the way to go.
Yeah.
To Port Lincoln, South Australia. Port Lincoln, South Australia. And see how long of a drive that is. It's good fun. So we drove that very, very, like a day. It was basically 20 hours or something like that drive.
Yeah.
And we drove through Adelaide at like 2 a.m. Not a car inside. Every traffic light red. That was my experience with Adelaide. So I don't know either. I'd love to see. I didn't get to go to Perth. I've never been to Perth, and that's the only time I've been to Adelaide.
Thanks for your question.
But yeah, thank you. And lastly, question C, 1C from Sassy Cat, surfing or skiing?
I'm pretty average with both, but ski.
I'm a Central European who lives for whatever reason in a tropical climate in Australia, who does not like
The outdoors.
the outdoors, basically. No, or especially hot and wet. I don't like hot and wet, so I definitely skiing.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Sassy Cat.
Now you know.
All right, we have a question here from Jumping Man. Hey, Jumping Man. If your house was on fire, what single piece of music equipment would you save? And what's one pedal you'd never get rid of? Okay, start with if your house was on fire, what single music equipment would you save?
Probably my Tompkins telly.
Okay.
And what was the pedal thing? If you had to live, not.
What's the one pedal you'll never get rid of?
Probably that Silver Kiss, Captain Bread.
Okay, Cattle and Bird Silver Kiss.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, if my house is on fire, I'd probably save my kids first. But after that, probably, I don't know, my acoustic.
Yeah.
My Martin, maybe, because I've done so many I reckon I've done like 2,000 or 3,000 plus gigs with that. I've used it so much, and that's what I mainly used to make money with. So that maybe my 62 Jaguar.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe possibly my old Patrick Eggle because it's got sentimental value too, because that was one of my first sort of better quality guitars.
You love that.
What pedal would I never get rid of? I think a pedal that one of the very few, there's two pedals that I think I've had on every pedal board I've ever had. Electric guitar pedal board.
Like a clon?
No.
But you did get rid of them.
Well, if I had one, I did already get rid of one. I had one and got rid of that long time ago. That's a whole different story, and I'm an idiot. But two that I've had on pretty much every pedal board for the last 15 plus years is a Whammy.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the King of Tone. I like the King of Tone. That's probably a pedal I would never... I think I'll always have at least one. I've got two of them at the moment. I'd probably always have at least one floating around.
There you go.
King of Tone.
Fun.
Thanks, jumping. Oh, hang on. Was there another question? Oh, okay. Part C. Let's quickly do that. A good clean amp as a foundation for pedals, or an amp with a good OD distortion channel?
If you had to pick one?
Yeah.
Probably B. A really good overdrive on amps.
Really?
Yeah.
You're more of a clean platform guy, though, aren't you?
Not necessarily. If it's really good, like the Dumble clone, I could live with that, and a delay and a tremolo.
Okay.
And reverb.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've probably got a clean amp.
Mm-hmm.
Clean amp with pedals, with my King of Tone. That covers most things.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you, and hello to Portugal. Obrigado. Jumping Man. Another question from Robert Menzies. Hey, Robert. From Devon, UK. Another question from me. When looking for driven sound, what's your pedal style of choice? Distortion, fuzz, overdrive, or metal, and why?
Kind of depends what I'm doing.
Depends on the gig, yeah.
We both do kind of lots of cover stuff, and then when we're not doing cover stuff, we often play for other artists as like a session side player,
I would pick what's the least appropriate for the gig. That's usually my way of doing things.
Yeah, you're not really looking for repeat business, are you?
No.
So, depends on the gig. Generally, I'll have maybe a couple of overdrives and stack them to get into the distortion world. Because that way, if you have a couple of different overdrives with different flavors, you can choose the type of overdrive for the part and then stack them if you want more or more.
Yeah. I'm probably, again, depends on the part. I usually like having one overdrive and one distortion, and I kind of use the King of Tone as an overdrive, but it almost goes into distortion, and then I usually have a higher gain, usually like a Marshall-esque kind of sound. Mm-hmm. Lately, I've been really into fuzz, so I think if I was to write more original stuff and play in more original music, I'd probably use more fuzz.
Cool.
And metal pedals are always good for anything.
Yeah.
So, but probably, I like them all. But yeah, it depends on what you do, I think. Hope that was the right, Robert. So now we're asking Pirate Alex a question. And we have a question from Mickey D on the bass. Michael, our friend Michael.
Amen.
Hey, he's got two questions as well. Would there be a pedal you would give a Shonky award to?
Shonky award. I'd say probably just because they feel flimsy, but the big box Electro-Harmonix pedals.
Yeah, they do feel a bit flimsy,
don't they? Feel like you're just going to go and then put your foot through them.
Yeah. So do I have to answer these questions too? Or are they just for Pirate Alex?
I don't know. Do you want a hat?
No.
Okay.
Shonky award. There's a pedal maker I would give a Shonky award to, but I should name not any names. But okay, part B. If you could design your own pedal, what would it be, and what would you call it? Well, you'd have to call it some sort of piratey name.
Yeah. You ever think I'll?
I just keep looking I keep looking down here because that keeps making everything out of focus. So I'm just making sure we're in focus. The hat makes things go out of focus.
Like my mind.
Yeah.
What was the question?
If you could design your own pedal, what would it be, and what would you call it?
I would call it the First Mate, and it would be.
Oh dear.
A compressor with a fuzz blend and a tremolo on the end of it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. And you called it First Mate.
Hat's doing weird things to my brain. my
If
brain.
I
is
could
the thing.
design a pedal, good question.
Put that down.
You don't want the pipe? No more? Piped out?
Yep.
If I could design a pedal, I probably now would do some sort of a stacking fuzz with built-in whammy.
Jesus.
Maybe like a fuzz and overdrive or distortion that work really well together,
Like a whammy?
that you can stack with a whammy function in it.
That'd be fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because then that sort of completes most of what I need.
Main food groups.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Thanks.
I'd call it, what would I call it?
Is it pirate related?
No, I'm not. You're the pirate. I'm not the pirate.
No.
I don't know what I would call it. The Gabor's pedal.
Jeez.
I'm not very. The super fun, awesome pedal
Cool.
that makes you happy from time to time. Thanks, Michael. And there's one last question for Pirate Alex from Stefan Stuko. Hey, Stefan. What's your favorite guitar riff of all time?
Oh,
And it doesn't have to be pirate related or any sea shanties.
Oh, well, I'm out of ideas then. It's a little bit cheesy, but I love it so much. It's Money for Nothing riff.
Really?
Yeah. So 80s and yeah. Sting doing the intro.
Exactly like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Just
Because he was in the studio next door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was recording in the studio next door. Favorite riff? I've always liked, like Rage Against the Machine. They have like their riffs are killer. So,
Major riff.
what is that? Know Your Enemy. That's a cool riff. With the intro where it does the toggle switch thing.
Sure.
So that's a cool riff. I think that's maybe one of my, or anything off that album really. The first Rage Against the Machine album. That's killer riffs. Always also liked Soundgarden do cool riffs. Like if you like heavy sort of riffs.
Yeah, sure. But AC/DC.
Nah. Who else? Well, yeah, let's just say that. Yeah, I think that's. I like Rage Against the Machine riffs. They do good riffs. Tom Morello does some cool stuff.
Good question.
That's cool. Yeah, great question. Thank you, Stefan. All right, that was it. Thank you so much for watching episode 4 of the questions, comments, and stuff. If you have any questions, leave it down below for us in the comments. If you have any comments that are questions. Yes. So thank you so much to everyone, and see you next time.
So yeah, I mean, arr.